I'm Dominique from DominoFX Group, and thank you guys so much for joining me here on my channel, The Domino Effect. Hey guys, I'm Dominique from DominoFX Group, and thank you for coming to my channel, The Domino Effect. And the domino effect is a powerful theory that illustrates the concept of how a small event or trigger can set off a chain of events with often significant or far-reaching consequences. In the context of our educational program, we're harnessing the principles of the domino effect to empower you to access funding for your business in a way that creates a ripple effect of positive change. I imagine each entrepreneur as the first domino in a line. When you gain the knowledge, resources, and confidence to successfully secure funding, it's like the initial push that topples the first domino in the chain. Okay, well, Michael Hom is joining us today from GRA Capital. Thank you so much for coming, Michael. You are my first interview on this channel. Thank you for coming on and supporting the domino effect. And really, we want to we're providing resources to women-owned companies, and you coming on and providing your insight is very crucial. So thank you so much. And so just if you could give us a little bit more about GRA Capital and explain that to us a little bit more.
Well, I think what happened, it goes back was in how I got into the business. I'm a former GE Capital a manager, and when I left GE, I decided to get into what we called at the time was called venture debt. Venture debt was basically providing capital to companies that were equity backed. We thought, well, they must be smarter than us, so we'll go along for the ride. So what we were doing was providing, equipment loans to companies that basically weren't bankable at the time there. Well, then what happened was the dot-com collapsed, and we were forced with all these companies having their with loans, and we couldn't pay them. And on top of that, the equity sources that we use as our gauge for getting involved in the deal disappeared. So we ended up basically, selling off technology to get our money back. And that led to us getting into the non-banking lending business. So non-banking lending basically this is that, a typical company, they go to their bank to borrow money. And if they can't borrow money, where do they go? Well, that's where it came into the private or non-depository arena. That means that they're not traditional banks. So that's where we excel in, and we've been doing it for, let's see, I started in 1999, so I guess we're coming on 24 years, almost 24 years. So that's what we do. So 90% of our leads that come from banks who can't do the deal or they want to exit, are from accountants or financial advisors who their companies need financing, but again, can't get to the banks. So that's what we do.
And so you mentioned that you work in collaboration with the banks.
Yes, typically what happens is that either a bank is looking at a deal that they can't do or they want to get out of it. So we have a huge network of banks, and they come to us and say, hey, we have this client that we can't help, or that we're having issues that they need to refinance us out, and in which case they will take a look at the deal and then proceed to move forward to meeting their clients.
Mm-hmm. And what do you see? So from when you first started to where you're starting now, or to where we are now in 2023, what have you seen in terms of the number of applicants that have been women-owned companies?
Well, that's one thing that kind of bothersome to me there. I've been doing this again for over 20 something years, actually longer than that. And in my lifetime, I've closed, I would say, hundreds of deals. Okay, hundreds. Let's take it in the number. Let's take 300 deals, right? For me to do 300 deals, I had to look I had to basically propose on 900 at one point there, because there's 900 deals. There's about 30%, which averages and so on. Now, to look at 900 that I wouldn't forward to 900, I probably looked at maybe 10,000 deals in my lifetime. And remember, these are referrals from banks, okay? So, two hands, the number of companies that were women-owned that were referred to.
Wow.
now think about this now, that 40% of the businesses in America are women owned. Okay, just think about that number there. Realistically, I should have, for every, say, 10 opportunities, let's be conservative. I should at least have seen 3 opportunities of every 10 that was presented to me. So you can tell you can't get 20 out of 9,000. It's not possible. So that means that either one, the banks are turning down the deals and not referring women-owned businesses to whoever they need to get money, or there's a severe disconnect on whether the opportunity to even then talking to somebody else is not there. So that's what I've seen. And I think that, again, is that, that doesn't make sense. So not only is there a great opportunity, but obviously the potential of changing we said whether it's a industry or a social issue on why capital isn't available to women-owned businesses.
I want to ask a question of the applications that you did see. Of those, say, 20 or so that you did see, were they even able to get past the point to where they could be presented, or were there issues that also needed to be addressed maybe beforehand that would have been part of the access to resources would have been helpful?
Well, I remember correctly the 20 that we saw and so on. Again, you think about 20 over the course of 30, 40 years and so on. There is that I remember funding 4 of these deals. Okay. And here's the funny thing about it. I remember that we submitted 5. So we funded 4. That is a phenomenal success story at one point. Because typical, the best bankers you're going to find a huge success is about 30%. So well over 70% have been funded, right? Now, obviously, that's limited data, or there's not enough information to gather anything, but it tells you that even if we base it on a 30% success rate, that would be phenomenal. So I remember in the 5th deal, believe it or not, wasn't because it wasn't able to get done, it's just that the counting information was incorrect and couldn't be corrected and so on there. So again, that tells me that there's great opportunity there. But in the same breath, for some strange reason, back in those days, there really was a resistance for lenders to do business with women-owned enterprises. Look, we can always say that it can be politically correct and said, yes, we will gladly look at everything else there. But, I had this real feeling and so on that we had to do more in-depth analysis and more selling than we had to do that whether it was another type of business that was male-owned.
You think that is because that they don't believe that women possess the same qualifications, or that they think it'll be a tougher project to take on? Why do you think that has been?
Oh, well, I can always tell you it's kind of a good old boy network. Okay. I've seen some inroads in women in my business, which is financing. I have seen that there. I can, for example, if I had 10 lenders, chances are there's at least 2 of them would be represented by women. There's some sort of woman in the industry. Again, it's just kind of weird considering that it's still kind of weird that in 10 there should be maybe 3 or 4. That's one point there. But we're seeing some changes. But again, the decisions are being made predominantly male. So the credit decisions are made. For example, of all the deals I've done, I've ran into a woman credit officer maybe once or twice. Yes. So, but if we can just get the capital to these businesses, forget it, whether these women are not just getting to these businesses and so on there, I think it changed the dynamics. It would change the dynamics in my industry, as well as change the dynamics of almost every industry. And it's really important there that these changes be made as quickly as possible, because I won't get into the social aspect there, but I really saw this when the I don't really want to get political, but Roe versus Wade, is that to me it was why are we doing this? Why this? I said, well, maybe if women business had more power, because obviously is capital available, maybe the mindset would be different. That having a bunch of that would be more or less that decision on what a woman could do and so on. Maybe it's because they have more access to capital, more visibility. So again,
Yeah,
it's
that's
just an
one of the
opinion.
biggest reasons is that access to capital and that lack of resources. So do you
Yes.
think that by providing that access to resource in the beginning, because we know the mindset is there, we know the drive is there, we know that the numbers are there through the revenue that's being generated and the amount of employee jobs that are being supported. So can we mitigate this to start change now by getting in front of this in the beginning, right? Tackling things like your credit, but really, that kind of starts also in the community, right? With inspiring in the community, like let's pay attention to these things now rather than later. So in terms of providing access to the do you think that we could make a bigger impact if we tackle these things beforehand so that when they get to that point or where we're able to put them in front of the banker, put them in front of the lender, they'll be better prepared?
Yes, I mean, obviously, what you want to be able to do is get by the social issues or the prejudices toward women or maybe minority or whatever you want to say at some point here, is that they stop and pause and not look at you're a woman borrower, that you're actually a successful business. Now, one way to do is obviously is make your package so overwhelming that it's like you move down from a doubtful to from a prospect or suspect to an actual deal or anything else like that there. So again, and to do that is like you have to be able to say these are the numbers, these are verified numbers, these are what I've done. That's my point here. And we can go back and talk about the story, how you got there, but it's the success and the growth of what you're doing. So, for instance, for example, when I first got into business, it wasn't a matter of what color you were, is that there was only one real color, with a color which is green. So that's it. So being a minority male, I just had to go through one hurdle because of my race. Women have to go through two hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
Is not only the aspect that that women are considered minority, but also because they're women. So basically, that's basically what you're kind of looking at needs to get done. It's a sad fact, but it is a truth.
We are also seeing, though, a rise in the number of women investors, women-backed investment funds and stuff and things of that nature. But are they looking for? What can you give us an example of a company that you've worked with that you were able to step in and provide a solution as opposed to maybe they couldn't get at the bank or elsewhere else?
Well, I'll give you an example. I have a women organization, a women enterprise that was buying a franchise. Okay, well they raised the cash themselves and so on, and to buy the first one. When they wanted to buy the second one, they went to their bank, and the bank said, "Well, we're running through SBA, bank, and we'll get you a deal there." And what happens is that didn't really focus on excuse me, there wasn't a successfully run company. Again, it just came back to she was a woman more than anything else. So what should have been a fairly easy process to get through to SBA, it didn't happen. And the problem was from a after action perspective was the package was not properly prepared, provided too much questions, and that was basically from the bank itself. They kind of like they missed the boat there, which means it got rejected at SBA. Again, now we took the package, we went private, got her money for her expansion and so on like that there. But now that I look back at this, I said, God, if I had ran that SBA package, I would have got that through. Simple as that, because I made it an after fact that it was a woman.
Mm.
That's also example. If we didn't have a chance to, look at
So
each
some
other.
old way of thinking kind of got in the way of how you processed it.
Yes, I mean the 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 problem is that the aspect is, how is she managing her employees? Okay, that's that ridiculous old school thought process. It really shouldn't have anything to do with it. It should be basically, well, how's her success, how she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't have to do say, well, how she managing her people. Um, because it's assuming, does she
How would
have
she
the,
tackle if this went wrong? Right.
yes, does
Yeah.
she have the leadership ability that we put a male thing about it there, as a leadership ability. And I think that's the problem. And that's the problem. It shouldn't be an issue. It really shouldn't be an issue. But I can tell just from having dialogue with him there. There have been many times where I've asked, what does this have to do with his deal?
So, I mean, but really the only way to really change that is we need to see more women in the forefront, more women getting access to these resources.
It is. And also, too, is just like, for example, I actively search out women who are representing lenders, even though technically they may not be in my territory. For example, if you're doing a business with an asset-based lender, right, and that the asset-based lender represented in California is a male, I will probably research looking through their whole database and find a woman. She may be in Minnesota or whatever, but I'm going to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors one point there, and because I want allies too. I want a representative for a lender who's a woman, because you need to have this lockstep mentality on how this industry needs to be done. It's the same thing before, is that I want this to happen. I really want this to happen, but it cannot be done by me. So I need to train, women entrepreneurs and financing, everything else, train them, give them the tools to go, but create their own business. It really cannot have a male influence on it, really, there for it to succeed. For example, I don't want to come back and say, well, I need to talk to Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I
You
think
have all
it's
the
okay to
information.
have like allies, but not, yeah, like you're saying.
Correct. I'd rather be the person behind telling, say, hey, this is how you handle this, whatever there, but you just don't want to. It needs to become, they need to be a look at your company, look at whether you're a lender or your company, look at it as just a look at you, not the consultant or the male in the room.
Well, and while we know that there are some, investors with the old school way of thinking, right? That old way of thinking, but there are also a lot of investors and lenders out there who are excited and ready to work with these women-owned companies. What are those investors looking for? Like, what gets them excited?
Success. What's the success story? Okay, for example, that's what I vision, that these new generation, the new generation there, is that the echo of the old school is dying out. I believe that I'm probably the last of that generation, hopefully, is that the new generation of financing and businesses out there that will change the thought process. I still, unfortunately, I don't see higher management women positions, but I'll take middle level management any day right now. Simple as that there. On top of that, the is a very competitive environment. Things have changed a lot. We're going through a change because of COVID related issues and so on, where the credit industries are getting tighter. There are more companies right now that I believe in the next 2 years and so on are going to have difficulties doing get bank financing. Even the banks themselves, their portfolios are probably stressed. That's one point. Some of these are going to have to exit. Simple as reason there. So realistically, it should be a level playing field. Okay, So because of that, it should be more competitive. So women who are successful businesses at one point there should be able to take advantage of this timing or this, this hiccup in the market right now to get in there and show the industry, say, hey, this is not a woman-owned business. This is a successful business.
And for women who are still working on, getting their revenue up, working on generating more sales and things like that, what do you some things that they can do in the meantime?
Well, I won't talk about the equity and how equity markets work and so on, because the areas that working on equity for me there is kind of focus. But I will say that I have been looking at all the new equity, or what we call growth capital for women, and I will review back and say who's the CEO, and if it's a woman, I said, well, there's a good chance here we can do that. So if you're looking for growth capital, first thing about this is that obviously is exhaust all your local means. Go to your local bank. Okay. The reason why I say go there is because you want to basically eliminate the easiest path initially. If you're rejected there, ask them, why did you turn me down? That's the biggest thing about is that most borrowers never ask, why did I get turned down? Okay. And then once you get that information, you validate whether that's true or not. Or was it just basically a checkoff item there to deny you credit? Okay. For example, a company that we worked at in the Atlanta area, it hit all the benchmarks, right? It was driving revenue, they were profitable, but they got turned down by the banks. Okay. What happened on there? Because was their balance sheet poor? Did they not have enough working capital, or did they have a client concentration? All these little issues and so on. A lot of times the bank won't tell you. It's going to be up to you to find out. Once you figure that out there, then you can figure out what capital I need to go to. Maybe it's going to be a non-conventional sense. It's going to be like some mezzanine debt or something like that there, or maybe some quasi equity, quasi debt, which is basically is convertible debt. So those what you have to do there. And then also don't abandon your also local resources there. You have other, tax credits, some items there that are available, type of programs that are available there. And of course, the hardest thing of that obviously is because how do I find time to do this when I'm trying to, keep my doors open? Sometimes it's good to find a good banker. Find a good banker who understands what you need to do there, who will find all those access. So instead of you going in and doing dialing for dollars, let them do the dialing for dollars. And in which case, you're gonna have to pay them, of course, obviously. No one does this for free. But for you as a business owner, time is money. And that's how you equate that there. I don't have time to go through on the internet every single potential lender out there because there's so many and you don't know which ones are real. Let your bank who has the experience do that.
Right. Time is so valuable. And that's true. You don't know which ones are real. And we've seen some pretty crazy horror stories of people that have kind of just applied blindly online. And then when they're ready to when they get to that point, when they're ready to seek out substantial financing, they run into a lot of issues because of the bad advice or funding that they had sought out. Would you
Yes.
be able to also, you've seen that as well, right?
Oh, yes. I mean, it goes both ways and so on. Is that I've seen companies make bad decisions. I won't name one company, but there's one company that I worked with where they were on the cusp of us getting them financing, right? Everything they need to do. And they took some bad advice. They went on there and picked up a couple of MCA loans. And what ended up happening there is you had a company that was really promising, was making we had a company that we were on the cusp of giving financing to. They went online, found some suspicious loans, took the loans and so on. Turns out they were really bad. And instead of the company going into growth mode, they're now on the cusp of going bankrupt.
So it's very, very, very important in the beginning to just take some time, sit down, evaluate, start with your banker, start with your local banker, your community banker, go there first. And that
Yes,
is not, that could be your local credit union as well, right?
that is correct.
Okay. So we should start there, develop
And,
these relationships.
and ask them too, ask them, look, thank you for looking at this, at my loan package. Can you recommend anybody to me? Okay, ask them that there. But a lot of times you don't. It, obviously, that's the issue that I ran into, is that why weren't these banks referring women-owned companies to other bankers? That's the
Because
biggest thing
they
about.
were referring all of the men-owned companies, correct? That is
But
so,
yeah,
isn't that
yeah,
crazy?
without being politically correct, that is correct. There is just that. I mean, you think about that. I've looked at thousands of deals, opportunities and so on. Don, it's almost sad that I said, "Well, how many have you looked at women?" I go, I can't even. I can't even count them on two hands. Can't count them on two hands and so on. And my lifeblood is those referrals. So
Mhm.
where are they going? Well, I confirmed with other bankers such as me. I said, "Hey, how many women-owned businesses you're looking at?" And they say, "None." So
But
where are they going?
and it's interesting because from the bank perspective, you want to keep these accounts. And if you have a woman-owned company that is generating some revenue, that is a total, shift that has to change in the mindset, which is going to happen with the newer generation. So if we can just get into those positions, we could see a change.
Yeah, I mean, I have a goal. I have a goal that I'm reaching that age where I guess I consider looking at retirement, but I would love to be kind of a consulting, helping, women-owned businesses and women-owned financing companies get started and moving in that direction more than anything else like that there, because this is just something that needs to be done. It needs to be done. It needs to be done. And everybody talks about it. Everybody talks about, oh, we're equal opportunity lender. We have women, seminars and everything. But at the end of the day, it's still the money.
Right. Everybody
Whereas,
talks about it. And did you hear that Gavin Newsom actually was signed into the bill? It's supposed to start in March, that's mandating that any company, venture capital that invests in a California startup has to release their, DEI and all that. Have you heard of that? What do you think about that from an invest, like from the other side? What do you think about, what's your perspective?
well, okay, I let's talk about the social aspect. One of my success of raising money before for social issues, I called the guilt raise, was that I would tell them, said, well, look, these people are starving, these people don't have clean water. Maybe you should do something about that. Let's call it guilt raise, okay? And I don't care. It's effective. Okay. At the end of the day, it got the money to the people that needed it. It worked. Well, it's the same thing with how SBA and a lot of these banks there is that, oh yes, we're equal opportunity lender, we're minorities, women-owned enterprises, and so on. Well, why does the statistics doesn't bear that out? Okay, and there's no doubt they don't bear it out. So what happens is that lenders don't like to be told of their own shortcomings, whether it's a bank or any type of lender. So the idea is that you kind of need to get that kind of that guilt going more than anything. Why aren't you doing this deal here? Is it because it's a woman-owned enterprise?
Yeah.
You,
What's going
you have
on? Yeah.
what's going on? So the reason why is that, again, you're saying, well, it's kind of defeating the purpose of being equal all the way around there. You got to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. We need traction. We need traction. We need to have that we're for every 10 deals that are coming across a lender's hands, desk, and so on, is that at least three of them are women-owned enterprises. Okay, at least. Okay, And then I don't care if they're rejected pari passu to the ratios in the other company, whether it's 30% or whatever is one point there, at least give them a chance to get rejected. That's the important thing, because if they're getting rejected, then we're getting some wins too.
And we can find out why.
Yes, because now what happens is data. For example, I don't know about you. Have you checked to see, is there any statistics? I'm sure there is, about how many women-owned businesses have applied for loans and have been turned down. I would love to see if there's any statistics on that.
I'm sure that there is. Let me see.
Well, again,
percent of women had their loan applications denied in 2022 versus 19% of male businesses.
Yes. So here's the thing too. It's not just the banks, okay? You've seen the banks and so on. Is statistically, what about other lenders? Because they don't keep track of that information. For example, I should be tracking every single women-owned business that come across me just for the state of marketing process there. But again, I've seen so little, I can count off on my hands. In 30 plus years of financing, I can count on my hands. That's how unique it is almost sad. So again, it doesn't matter whether it's the Bank of Americas or the quote unquote financing companies. It's such a serious disconnect on the number of applications to funding that it's almost like criminal.
It's a huge barrier.
Yes, and a huge gap.
It's like that. The money is here, but then there's this barrier with who has what's available, who has access to it.
Yeah, well,
but I believe that with these right connections and with partnerships that we're developing, like with you and I have, we can definitely push to change this. It's not going to happen right away, but if we continue, for sure, we can absolutely make an impact and shift this.
Agree. I agree 100% there. I mean, I've talked to other women in the finance business. They love the idea. Every time I run into a rep and a woman in the finance business, I really focus on it. I said, I'm working on this program. And of course, they kind of looked at me and said, why is the guy who's been in this business for 30-something years doing this? Because it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's really kind of the right thing to go. I've been a mercenary all my life, providing money to companies that hire me to do this one pointer. But there comes a point where I believe there's great opportunities there. There's great opportunities there. Realistically, I'm at this stage of my career where I'm not going to benefit from that there, but it'd be a nice legacy to provide that somewhere along the line that, for example, you tell me, say, Michael, we did 45 loans last year and so on. That would make me extremely happy, considering that's 40 loans more than I've done in 30 years of financing.
And 40 businesses that are going to get the capital that they need to grow.
That's correct. So again, I love the idea that a woman-focused financing is key. It really is. That doesn't preclude us from giving money to anybody, because obviously we don't want to have a reverse end there. But there are special needs that women and enterprises need to have. Mm-hmm. So, sorry for the dog barking.
That's okay. And so how would they get in touch with you? What's the best way to start the process with us?
They go through Dominique. Simple as that. You go through Dominique and so on there. And, Dominique, what we have to do is that we have a checklist, what we need to get done. And then we'll sit down and talk about what the opportunities are. I remember years ago, a woman who was a manager in a preschool, and she wanted to do a venture, which basically was bring tumbling to all these preschool classes, right? So she had a thing called Tumble Bus. Mm-hmm. And she went to her bank, got turned down, and what I ended up doing is I found her the money. I spent so much time on the deal that I didn't make any money technically there, but it got done. And she was very successful on that there. And to that day, that is the best win in my whole career. It's the best feeling deal I've ever done in my life. And the loan was only for like $50,000.
Well,
But
that's amazing.
it's a fun.
Well, Michael, thank you so much. Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much for coming on and talking to us and talking to our students about GRA and just for your passion and for helping build up the community and for helping to women-owned businesses, helping us thrive. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks, Michael.